welcome to this explainer. Today, we are digging into a massive story that's literally been sending shockwaves through the entire tech market. I mean, if you've been watching the charts lately, you've definitely seen the jitters, right? You've seen the sudden drops. But listen, we aren't just going to sit here and look at the panic. We're going to structure it, break it all down, and figure out what is really going on behind the scenes of this crazy, AI-driven market volatility.
To really understand the sheer scale of what we're talking about, just think about this number, 13%. Recently, tech giant IBM suffered a massive 13% drop in a single day. And guys, that wasn't just a bad Tuesday at the office. That was their worst one-day loss in 26 years. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars in market value just wiped out across the tech sector in a matter of weeks. But the fear here? It actually wasn't the classic fear of an overinflated bubble popping. No, it was the fear of total, immediate disruption.
Okay, let's dive right into this and map out exactly how we're going to unpack this market mystery. First up, we'll look at the AI market earthquake. Second, fighting an AI ghost trade. Third, the dystopian nightmare scenario. And finally, sectors for long-term growth.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the AI market earthquake, and frankly, a month of intense tech turbulence.
To see exactly how this panic materialized, we just need to look at the timeline of events. This whole wave of turbulence was largely sparked by rolling updates to Anthropic's Claude model. Check this out. In late January, they released a legal plugin designed to help manage documents and scheduling. Well, almost instantly, software providers tied to the legal industry, think LexisNexis, Thomson Reuters, they got hit hard by sell-offs. Then, fast forward to late February, Claude pushed an update to scan software for security issues. And boom, suddenly cybersecurity companies watched their market values just fall off a cliff. By early March, a big spotlight on Claude's updated coding features sent even more shockwaves straight through the software sector. Investors basically started panicking, believing these new AI tools were going to completely take out entrenched vendors overnight.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, fighting an AI ghost trade, featuring Dan Ives' take on the panic.
To figure out if these fears are actually grounded in reality, we're leaning on the insights of Dan Ives. He's a senior analyst at Wedbush Securities, and he's been covering tech stocks since the late 90s, so he knows a thing or two. And he uses this fascinating term to describe this specific market behavior. He calls it an AI ghost trade. Essentially, investors are just swinging at shadows, They're fighting a fake enemy. Now, sure, while there will undoubtedly be some one-trick pony companies that get disintermediated by new AI tools, the reality for the massive entrenched software players is completely different. Why? Because players like Salesforce, ServiceNow, and Oracle, they own the underlying data. As Ives points out, the real value, the ultimate moat in the AI age, is where the enterprise data resides. So a new plugin from Claude, that's actually a massive catalyst for these huge software companies, definitely not a death sentence.
In fact, Ives views this whole current panic as a massive overreaction. He actually compares it to yelling fire in a crowded theater. He goes as far as to say that this is the most disconnected, mispriced trade and thesis he has seen in the tech sector in his entire 25-year career. I mean, wow. The market is basically painting the entire software sector with one giant, terrified brush.
Let's move to Section 3, the dystopian nightmare scenario, where we'll be unpacking the Katrini research fears.
So you gotta wonder, who exactly is yelling fire here? Well, a major trigger for that massive 13% drop in IBM was this apocalyptic blog post by a Substack channel called Katrini Research. They painted a truly dystopian view, predicting that AI would push unemployment to 10% by 2028. And yeah, it's pretty easy to see why that spooked investors and the general public alike. But here's the reality check from Ives. He points out that historically, there has literally never been a technology in the last 100 years that has been a net negative job detractor. Let that sink in. Every major technological innovation ultimately creates jobs, not destroys them.
To really hammer home how seriously we should take a hyper-specific economic prediction for the year 2028, Ives uses a bit of humor. He basically says that anyone predicting the global economic state 4 years from now with that level of certainty is just making things up. He literally compares it to predicting that he's going to win a gold medal at the Olympics, or declaring, hey, I'm playing in the NBA this year. It's an absurd projection, right? But it's being treated by some as immediate financial gospel.
And the Katrini report didn't just stop at unemployment. They also stoked fears that personal AI agents, using stablecoins for faster payments, would completely bypass major credit card providers like Visa and American Express. Once again, Ives firmly takes the other side of that bet. While AI agents are definitely evolving, the reality on the ground today is that they are absolutely not disrupting the deeply entrenched, highly regulated payment rails of giant institutions like American Express or Schwab. It's just another ghost the market is chasing. So, if all these dystopian narratives are just ghosts, what is actually real? Let's shift our focus entirely away from the subjective panic and look directly at the hard, objective data.
Because the reality of the situation is right there in the numbers. People are out there whispering about an AI bubble, but the data completely proves otherwise. We are currently seeing $650 billion in capital expenditure in this space. I mean, that is a massive amount of money. Add to that NVIDIA's absolutely stellar earnings reports, plus OpenAI raising insane amounts of capital. You just don't see this kind of sustained, foundational spending in a purely speculative bubble. No way. This is the heavy infrastructure build-out of the fourth industrial revolution.
So how should we contextualize what we're feeling in the market right now? Ives calls this current volatility a white-knuckle moment, basically a temporary gut check. But we have to remember, we are only in the second inning of a 9-inning game for the AI revolution. There will inevitably be scares and jitters early on, for sure. But the foundational game? It's really just getting started.
Which leads us nicely right into Section 4, sectors for long-term growth and exactly where to find shelter.
If the market is genuinely mispricing tech right now, where exactly are the real opportunities? Let's build a diversified playbook for the informed investor. Because when the market panics, you don't run away, you look for shelter and value. IVS highly recommends owning the second, third, and fourth derivatives of the AI trade. So what does that mean? It means starting with the bedrock, semiconductors, companies like NVIDIA and AMD. You absolutely have to own the software data moat companies we discussed earlier, too. But it expands way beyond that into hyperscalers like Palantir, the cybersecurity sector that's going to protect all this new AI architecture, and ultimately, the physical infrastructure and energy sectors required to literally power these massive new AI data centers.
The overarching lesson here is actually pretty simple. In moments like this, when the boy who cried wolf is spooking the entire market, it creates a massive opportunity for those who simply refuse to panic. The tech stocks will very likely rip higher as the true utility of AI proves itself out over the coming months and years. The real winners, they're going to be the ones who can step back, totally ignore the ghost trade, and see the forest through the trees. Which leaves us with this final thought. When the next disruptive AI update drops and the market takes a sudden dive, ask yourself, are you chasing ghosts or are you seeing the forest through the trees? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your focus sharp, rely on the data, and I'll catch you in the next deep dive.